Welcome to The Sample, a quick discussion of auditing concepts and terms that will help you do your work. Conducting an audit in accordance with auditing standards is no small feat, and I want to support you. We'll be referring to the GAO, IIA, and AICPA literature to bolster our conversations. Let's get started.
In this special episode of The Sample, Lita talks to Charles Hall, CPA. Charles Hall has worked in CPA firms for most of his career and is an expert on AICPA standards. Charles is a clear and entertaining writer and offers several self-study courses through Yellowbook CPE. Charles has his own podcast and allowed us to use this footage on our site as well. In this session, Charles and Lita talk about Yellowbook findings.
I'm Charles Hall and I'm with Lita Fanta. Today we're going to talk about Yellowbook findings, something I struggle with. So that's why I've got Lita on my side today. She's going to help straighten me out. But we're going to look at, even though I've been doing this a long time, I still have problems with Yellowbook sometimes. Maybe you do as well. So we're going to look at, it can, if it's plain vanilla, just straight up clean report, no problem. But if there's control issues or non-compliance, then it can be a problem. So we're going to look at findings, how to write correct findings for your Yellowbook. One of the issues that some people run into, like me sometimes, is the wording in the Yellowbook report. So all I'll say about that is, go and look at the gas and single audit guide from the AICPA. It's got all the sample language there. Make sure you're using the right report, the right example from there. But from here, I want Lita to, take us down the path of what is a finding and how to create a right finding.
Mm-hmm. Right. So when you finish an audit, you've got two deliverables, right? One is your opinion or your conclusion against your objective.
Okay.
And then as you're seeking that conclusion or opinion that they comply or that the financial statements look good, you're going to find things that need to be brought to the attention of those in charge of governance.
Okay.
Or whoever's reading your audit report. And we call those findings. Now, some of the teams I work with don't like that word because it sounds a little like we purposely were trying to dig something up, but some call them observations, or patronizingly we'll call them opportunities for improvement.
Very good. I like that.
You like that? Okay.
Yeah.
So findings has kind of a negative connotation, but that's essentially what they are. They're kind of like little complaints that we're making that they're not in compliance, that their controls are not adequate, that maybe there's a potential for fraud that's going on here. And in government, we also care about abuse and waste of government resources.
Yes.
So those are the kind of things that would cause us to go, we should probably say something about that in the audit report.
Right.
And so what the GAO does, because the GAO loves, and that's the author of the Yellowbook, loves the concepts of transparency and accountability.
Right.
They don't just say there's a problem and then just kind of leave it at that. They describe the problem in a lot of detail.
Okay.
And that's the elements of a finding. You want to show that slide? That'd be great. Okay. Thank you. So there's 5 elements to a finding. Okay. The first one is the condition, which tells us what the problem is. And then we have a recommendation that resolves a problem. And then the second element is an effect.
Okay.
And this kind of sells the finding and tells the reader why this is important and why we brought it up and why it needs to be resolved. So it's kind of like it's a sales. It's kind of like convincing people that this needs to be taken care of. Then the cause is the reason that the condition happened.
Okay.
And the GAO counseled us in 2018 for the first time, and I was very happy to get it. Even though most of us that have worked with findings for a long time knew this, but they documented it that the cause of a finding is an internal control weakness. That's the best cause.
Yes.
So it's not best to start the finding with an internal control weakness. It's best that it is the cause instead. So the condition would say you're not in compliance, or the children are not eligible to receive free lunch. And the cause is you didn't screen them. So make the internal control the cause. And then we have to resolve the cause too with the second recommendations. You brought up 2 problems so far.
Right.
You need to take care of both of them. Yeah. And then the criteria. Oh, you want to say something, Charles?
Well, sometimes I see non-compliance. I looked at a report this week and there was budgetary non-compliance. So you had a violation of law. As you just said, I agree. You wouldn't have that violation if you had good internal controls. But
right.
Sometimes I see people write a non-compliance item and they don't talk about the internal control. Or they talk about the internal control and they don't talk about the non-compliance. In other words, they'll say what the control problem is, but they don't specify what the non-compliance is. So seems like the 2 should go together.
They do. If you follow the GAO's recommendation that the cause is an internal control weakness, and you test, see, every statement you make in the finding has to be backed up with evidence.
Right.
So that's a big problem that people kind of try to, squish and kind of vague these out and say things like, things that aren't really true. Like the effect is errors and irregularities could go undetected. That's not true. That's not backed up with the test, right? Or they don't really know the cause and they'll say something like, the client admitted they didn't have enough time to take care of this or was not aware of the issue. Those aren't really causes. Right. Those aren't something you can tie to a working paper. Yeah. So if you do start off with, the condition is the kids are not eligible for free lunch or whatever we've determined. I'm shortcutting here because we're on a short video. And the cause is did not screen for eligibility. You can test that the kids weren't eligible in the condition, and you can test that the screening didn't occur. And now you've backed up all your elements with evidence. And your effect would just be quantifying how many kids are not eligible out of your sample.
Once you've done this, when should I sit down with the client and how should I communicate this? I mean, should I have this conversation immediately or maybe a day or 2 later or 3 weeks later? Or when does this happen and who am I talking to?
When you're doing the single audit, you mean?
Well, just Yellow Book. Say we're not doing single audit, but just Yellow Book, and I've run into a problem. Should I go ahead and have that conversation as soon as I'm aware of it, or how do we communicate and when about the finding?
Well, on the how to communicate, I think it'd be nice to say something like, I think it'd be wise to say something like, we noticed that some of the kids that are getting free lunch are not eligible.
Right.
And that hopefully they go, oh. And you go, do you think that's a problem? And they go, yeah, that's probably a problem. And then you say, well, what do you think? Do you think you're going to do something about that? And they're going to go, yeah, we'll probably need to do something about that. And then you say, well, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Yeah. And then they say, we're going to have to screen for eligibility. Yeah. And there they just wrote your finding for you. Like they came up with your cause for you, and they came up with your recommendation for you, right? And if you let them shape the cure,
right,
it'll get cured. If you tell them how to cure it, sometimes they rebel or they're like,
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like me trying to tell my children what they should or should not do. I need to let
Does
them
not
tell
work.
me what they should or should not do.
Yeah. You just kind of
Then
go,
they'll
oh,
own
is
it.
that causing you some kind of harm?
Right.
Do
Yeah.
but you want to talk about what you could do about that? You know, and then let them come up with the solution. So I don't know. When do you talk to the client about this kind of
Well,
stuff, Charles?
if I'm a younger staff member, I run it by who's in charge, somebody with
Mm,
more experience than me first. And then
true.
usually that person would be the one having the communication. But I like how you did that step thing with the client, so that's diplomatic. It's useful, helpful, it gets them to own it. Now, the example you were using, that can come into play really with single audit and, just a financial statement audit, because
Yeah.
if you don't meet certain criteria, you didn't really earn the revenue for a grant. So sometimes these things affect financial statement and single audit. So you want to
Mhm.
go to the next slide or yes?
Yeah, sure. Sure, we can
Okay.
do that.
All right.
So, what the finding does, what the elements of a finding does, is it tells the story of the issue, and they're actually modeled after. Gosh, I always forget if it's Socratic or Aristotelian. It's modeled after Greek philosophy. So they're
Okay.
elements of a persuasive argument,
Okay.
right? So, first thing that we always find, right, is a condition, and it kind of tells us what is going on. And
Right.
then the criteria is what should be.
Right.
And then we find a gap, which is represented by this triangle right here.
Okay.
Now, we could just leave it just like that. We could just say, your baby's ugly, right? You did not meet the criteria,
Right.
and then just say, get your act together. We could do it like that.
Yeah.
But to persuade people and to really be more helpful, we also identify, well, what caused this gap?
Okay.
So, right. So, how did this gap happen? And then we kind of say, well, this gap should be filled or closed because this matters.
Yeah.
And then we recommend that we resolve the condition and the cause.
Okay.
So, a lot of auditors that I work with, because I'm working with performance auditors a lot, they always say things like, we want to tell a story, in our audit report. And I'm like, well, it's already baked in. The story is already baked into the elements of a finding. You don't have to make up a new fairy tale. This is our story. What auditors do is they evaluate a subject matter against a criteria and identify why they don't match and try to get them to match. Like try to help the client get the gap closed.
Okay.
So that's the underpinnings, I guess, of the elements of a finding.
Very good.
But it's not as easy as it sounds. It's really hard. So I teach classes on this on a regular basis, and everybody's like, yeah, and they nod and they go, sure, I got it, I know what it is. But when I give them a scenario and I ask them to go apply it, they're like, oh yeah, that effect is hard to come up with. Oh yeah, that cause is hard to come up with. A solid recommendation that we can go audit again later, follow up on and audit later is really hard to come up with, and something that the client thinks is feasible and that they'll do. It's harder than it looks on paper.
I think so. And the mistake I see a lot of people make is they default to general language, not particulars. And you've got to get down into the nitty gritty. And you've got to really, in that recommendation, you've got to tell them in detail how to fix the problem. And then, if you've got an issue and you're going to report it, they want to know how to solve the problem. Now, if you do leaders' way and diplomatically, they give you a really good solution, then applaud them, thank them, write it down and say, hey, I think I'll use that, and then proceed. So we've got condition, criteria, cause, effect, and then there's a recommendation. And these are all elements in that finding, in the schedule of findings and responses. Am I using the right name there? Yes. Okay. And by the way, you can embed a finding in the Yellow Book report. It's usually better to say 2024-01 and then put it on the schedule. And that way, if you got 3 or 4 findings, you don't have this terribly long Yellow Book report. You got that addendum in the schedule, and that just usually works better. All right, any closing thoughts?
I would say please don't make things up or forecast future doom. Actually do the testing that backs up each of those elements so that your credibility as an auditor will be preserved.
Yes.
So don't say things like, like back to your parents, right? If you keep doing this,
Yeah.
something bad's going to happen to you. That's not good for your credibility.
Right.
Just keep it factual,
Yeah.
no emotions, test everything you're saying to back up everything you're saying. And I think that's the professional way to do it. That's what that's my closing thought.
Yeah, and all good. And if we as the auditor can be friendly, I know we've got professional skepticism, but at the same time, we're there to help. So a little humility, a little kindness as we do this, all that is really important.
Don't come up with the recommendations on your own.
Yeah.
Because it's not you're not responsible for managing the entity.
That's right.
Your job is just to say, hey, I saw this thing.
Yeah. Then what can we do about it?
Want to learn more about this topic and earn some NASBA qualifying CPE at the same time? Try How to Write an Audit Report Finding, which is a fun and short course that tackles the hardest aspects of writing a finding.
And that wraps it up for another episode of The Sample. True to the nature of a sample, we didn't talk about everything, so you've probably got questions. Write to me at lita@yellowbook-cpe.com, and I'll do my best to fill in the blanks. Thanks for playing.